Okay, this is going to be another quick one. We're going to talk about FOMO, aka fear of missing out, and why it's so destructive. So, when it comes to the sexual hedonism, when it comes to the financial markets, when it literally comes to everything, as soon as you, and this is where more religious views generally are beneficial. Um, the thing is, once you essentially authorize or green light more degenerate behavior, people start engaging in it. A handful of people start engaging in it. And then naturally, especially the younger, unrefined mind is very big on the idea of also taking advantage of everything that is available to it. What ends up happening is you get behavioral sinks where all of society sinks down another level because people thought it would be a good idea to let the problems run to their conclusion. Because this also ties into the idea of, well, as long as you're not hurting anybody, except most people, when they think of, well, as long as you're not hurting anybody, they think of it on a small time scale. They don't think about, 20 years later, did an action or behavior hurt anybody? And you look at some of the consequences of some of the shit that's been allowed to happen and exist in the world. And 20 years later, it's just like, oh shit, well, that was a really fucking bad idea. All right. And this is also where, religious, theocratic reawakenings are starting to fire up a bit. Once you allow a new amount of degeneracy take hold, once you greenlight a new level of degenerate behavior, people get FOMO towards the degeneracy. Okay. So, for instance, you look at hookup culture, just as a base example. Before there were relationships and actual dating. Now, dating is dead, relationships have fallen apart, but you have hookup culture and situationships. Okay. That is another example of letting degeneracy win and have the upper hand, and people naturally being like, well, why the hell would I want to be in a relationship? Why have one hole when I can have 10? Okay, 20, 30, 40, 50. And you have girls coming out of high school now with triple digit body counts. And it's just like hearing that the first time, all right, you just sit there in awe, like, what the fuck happened? But we know what happened. We know what happened. All right. Decades of messaging in the making. Girl boss writes, my body, I'll do what I want. Literally Cartman from South Park. Given that's an old episode, I think it was the Freak Strike episode. But perfect example. It's my body, I'll do what I want. All the decades of feminism helped contribute to it. And now the girls are all going out, screwing around left and right. Guys are trying to do the same, but, most aren't successful. And now that relationships have largely collapsed, you have an entire generation. I mean, we're looking at, what was it, half of women by 50, by 45, 50 are going to be single. Half of men, half of women are going to be single because the body counts are so high that people just look at each other. Like for men, once you get to a certain age, assuming you've managed to avoid the herpes and anything else that could have come from it, Your own hedonistic activity, it's just like, I mean, you can, whole is whole and it's everywhere. All right. But for the females, a guy looking at a chick who's had triple or quadruple digit body counts at that point, it's just like, no, no. Is that's the thing. Feminism, especially in that context, completely mulled over the fact that at one point men considered women to be special and put them on a pedestal. And then women decided that they didn't want to be on a pedestal and they didn't want to be taken care of. So then they did everything possible to not just message that women, especially young women, should go out and ruin their bodies and fuck themselves up with all the mental baggage that comes from sleeping with 100+ men. Um, but essentially, they started, pushing young women into the idea that they should just fucking destroy themselves. You hear 30-year-old women, generally it's black women actually, who talk about, my body is my temple. It always was, but this is the thing. Feminism back in the day, yeah, you could do whatever you want and live a hedonistic life. Well, congratulations. You tried to live hedonistically to the expectation that you expected men actually lived up to, and you've destroyed the specialness. All right, so now men will just write you off and, throw you into the mental scrap heap of, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. FOMO's a bitch. FOMO's a bitch. It's the reason why bubbles are always fucking terrible in the stocks. It's the reason why we consistently, there's always this lead up. Things start off relatively okay, then more questionable shit is introduced to the system, and then you end up with a housing bubble and savings and a loan and a tech bubble and an AI bubble and an everything bubble. And then the dating and relationship bubble and the simp financing bubble and literally everything. FOMO is a bitch. It's been a fucking disaster for society as a whole. And honestly, I don't know if there's a way back, because honestly, the only way to stop FOMO is to either create a special level of cultural exhaustion where people cannot even possibly bear the idea of going down another level of degeneracy. Um, you either have to exhaust them to the point where they don't want to practice degenerate behavior anymore, and then they have to start raising the bar. And essentially, you just like how alcoholism used to be like the go-to, like especially during the boomers days, alcoholism was big, real big. And everybody growing up in the younger generations that followed saw the consequences of that alcoholism. That drove people to essentially write off alcohol as the thing. As part of the reason why Gen Z is more so leaning towards weed than alcohol. And honestly, is weed a better choice? Honestly, I'm not going to say one way or another. But but the thing is, that is kind of an example of the way things got to go. But instead of replacing weed with or alcohol with weed, the answer is to just get rid of alcohol and then not replace it with anything. It takes people being especially stiff morally in order to start raising the bar again and to break the FOMO cycle of degeneracy. their degenerate behavior. Anyway, I'll end it here. This has been Michael from Spades Consulting. My opinions are my own and do not reflect on Spades Consulting LLC, any of its employees, members, da 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 da. That being said, if you are interested in personal or business consultation, stop by www.spadesconsulting.com without the dash. If you're interested in written content, stop by the Substack. It is in the description box below, as well as the nav menu on the site. If you appreciate the video and are generally understanding of the concepts I laid out, like, favorite, sub, share, hype, do all the things, leave a comment, ding the bell, tickle the bell, do all the things you want to do to the bell. And you guys have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget to leave a comment if I didn't say that part, but you guys take care. I'll see you next time.